Well, good evening. Hi, my name's Tom Kruczek, and I'm the president of Notre Dame College, and that's over on the east side, and it's in South Euclid. And I'm delighted to be here today to talk to you about you have to find your passion to follow your passion. And I know that word passion gets to be a little bit of a charged word, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Just give me a sense of the room if I can. How about 8th grade students or parents? 9th grade? Okay. 10th grade? 11th grade? Okay. And 12th grade? Great. Welcome. I'm delighted that you're all here.
Early college program?
Early college program? That sounds great. So I'm delighted that you're all here today. And for the next 20 minutes or so, we're going to talk again about you have to find your passion to follow your passion. Now, one of the things that, and this is a really exciting time. I think this is an incredibly exciting time for all of you. Probably more for the students than the parents, but it's a fun time as you start thinking about yourself moving all the way from high school all the way through college. And I'm a president of a college, but I've also got 5 children. And my youngest just graduated last May. So I kind of been able to go through it both as a parent as well as a president of a college. And it's a fun time. It's an exciting time. And you're going to get a lot of advice, right? You're going to get advice from the moms and the dads, the uncles and the aunts, the maybe older brothers and sisters, cousins, everybody. This over here in the corner is our campus dog, Ember. She does not give advice. We asked her only to give unconditional love, so she's one of our campus dogs, so that's what she gives. But it's a fun time because you are getting this advice, and it's all well-meaning advice. To the students that are out there, I think, one of the things that all of us are doing is we want you to have a great life. We want you to have a happy life. We want you to be successful in your life. So the advice that we're giving you is all very well-meaning. But one of the pieces of advice that you're probably going to get is you have to follow your passion, do what you love, and a rewarding career will follow, right? Pretty simple. That's the way it should go, right? And that's absolutely true. But for most of you out there, especially those of you who are in high school, who are working your way through high school, you're probably yet to discover what you're passionate about, because so far your passion has been about doing well in high school and getting yourself ready for college. So it's not surprising that you don't have a passion yet, because as many of you would say, I'm only X number of years old. How can I be expected to know? How do I know what the world is going to be like in the future? I mean, just a few years ago, there wasn't an iPad. Just a few years before that, there wasn't an iPhone. So lots of changes have happened over the course of the world. So how can I be expected to know what I want to do? How can I expect it to know what my passion is all about? And you're probably saying to yourself, wait a minute, Kruczek, you got to stop there. Because I know lots of kids who, when they were 5 years old, they knew they wanted to be a doctor. Or when they were 4 years old, they knew they wanted to be an educator. Or when they were 3 years old, they knew they wanted to be a venture capitalist working in Silicon Valley. I know, I hear that story all the time. Absolutely the case. But you know what? Very, 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 very few students your age know exactly what they want to do. And I could probably put another very in there as well. Very few students your age know exactly what they want to do. So if you haven't found your passion yet, because everybody says you need to follow your passion. If you haven't found your passion yet, relax. It's okay. Parents, relax. Students, you guys can relax as well. Because let me tell you a quick story, if I may. And that story is about one of my favorite people, me. It's a story about me. When I started in college, a long time ago, when I started in college, I was going to be a biology major. And I thought that's what I wanted to do. I thought that would be really fun. And partway through my freshman year in college, I realized I really didn't like biology, because my passion to that point, I was a first-generation student, my passion to that point was getting into college. It was about doing well in high school, being successful in high school, and getting into college. I didn't know really what I wanted to do, so I majored in biology. Thought I would like that. Again, didn't like it. But during that freshman year, I was also taking a psychology course. And I kind of liked that, so I dropped the biology and I took psychology. And I thought, okay, that would be kind of fun. And I was enjoying that and decided, yeah, I'm going to stick with psychology. And along the way, I was figuring, okay, I'm either going to get a master's degree in psychology or I'm going to get a PhD in psychology. But what happened was, the dorm that I was living in had a lot of finance majors and marketing majors. And I started reading this thing, the Wall Street Journal. And I really didn't know what I was reading, to be perfectly honest with you. But I was reading it, and I found, yeah, I kind of like this. This business thing is kind of fun. So I took a couple of business courses, and then decided, yeah, that's what I really wanted to do. So instead of going on with the psychology degree, I ended up getting an MBA, and eventually ended up working for the Walt Disney Company in Florida for a number of years before I transitioned into the world of higher education. So again, and this is what I'm doing now. If anybody had told me when I was your age, when I was in high school, that at some point in time I'd be the president of a college and I'd be handing out diplomas on a wonderful May day, I would tell them they were absolutely out of their mind. Because there was no way in my mind could I ever see a path that would get me here. And for most of the adults, I think, probably in the room, and most of the adults that you know, these kind of stories happen all the time. So whatever the passion was we thought we had, maybe when we were in high school, we really weren't all that entirely sure. And that's how I ended up getting to this point here. So how do you follow your passion? How do you follow your passion when you don't know what it is? Again, at the beginning I mentioned people like to say you need to follow your passion. Well, how do you follow it if you don't know what it is? So from my standpoint, the first thing you need to do is you need to find out about your passion. That means you need to learn about yourself. What do you like to do? What do you like to read? What do you like to watch on television? You know, if you're messing around on the computer, where do you end up landing on? What are the kind of things that you end up liking to do? What do you not like to do is just as important as what you like to do as well. What do you value? What's important to you? Do you find yourself sometimes when you're on Netflix, do you sometimes find yourself over on TED Talks and just kind of wandering around and listening to some of the neat things that are out there as well? So for me, it's about learning about yourself first and foremost. If you're not sure of your passion, ultimately, everybody has an idea for you. And I think for the students out there, that's really important to know. We have very strong ideas. We'd love to help you as parents, as advisors, but ultimately it's your life. You're the ones who have to figure out what do you really want to do with your life. So as a part of that thought, one of the questions that we oftentimes ask students as they're going through their high school years and getting ready to college, it's the question of, so what do you think your major is going to be? And this is what ends up happening sometimes. Right here. That's one of the things, one of the things that I try never to do is to ask students when they're coming for a visit to the campus, and we see sometimes students who are sophomores, who are juniors, who are seniors who come to campus. One of the things I never ask them, what's your major going to be? Because when I do, that's the reaction that they give me. So from my standpoint, what I'm always asking is, what are you interested in? What would you like to do? What do you think you might see yourself in down the road, as opposed to what's your major going to be? And parents, I would really urge you not to have that question. Don't ask that question of your kids at the early age. But how do you learn about yourself to figure out your passion? So to me, to find your passion, think about your strengths and your weaknesses. Everybody has things that they're good at and things that they aren't good at necessarily. You know, at Notre Dame, for example, one of the things that we do is we give assessment tests for our students, and it's the Focus 2, but it's also like a Myers-Briggs or things like that, because it leads to a personal analysis where you could think about things that your strengths are, your weaknesses are, and your opportunities. A bunch of years ago when I was skiing, I had a ski instructor who used to talk about your strengths and that other thing that we don't want to talk about, because he didn't want to even use the word weaknesses. But we all know we've got things that we're better at than others. And so as a part of this learning about yourself, it's about learning where you're at and taking those kind of analysis and those assessments. Because when you take those kind of an assessment, you can learn about yourself and it gives you clues for a direction that your career might go into. Summer programs, lots of different opportunities at colleges. You know, we offer them. Other schools do as well. Summer springboard programs, summer college camps. We did one last summer, which was really neat because we really were being agnostic about where you went to college, but it was more about fit. It was more about where do you belong? Where do you see yourself going? About thinking about yourself. And I think the other thing you need to find out if your career, if it matches your personality and the way you like to work. No matter what I would want to do, I don't think I would be good in the technology space. It's just not my personality. It's not the way I like to work. It's not like what I like to do. And I think, you know, when you're thinking about yourself, do you like to do something new and different every day? Do you like to do the same thing every day? That's going to kind of inform the kind of career you want to go to. It's going to, you know, inform some of your passions as well. Because not every person is right for every career. So a few years ago, I ran into a guy. Again, I mentioned I've got 5 kids. My wife and I have 5 kids. I ran into a guy who used to be who delivered a couple of our kids. And I ran into him, and I found out he wasn't delivering babies anymore. He wasn't even a doctor anymore. And I asked him, I said, why? What are you doing? And he said he was doing something else. I said, well, why aren't you being a doctor anymore? He said, I hated it. I hated being a doctor. And you think about, you know, the years of schooling, then you think about internships and residencies and all those kind of things. So I asked him, I said, well, why did you become a doctor in the first place? And he said it was because it was what my dad always wanted me to do. And I thought, that's really sad. Now, he's in a better place. He likes what he's doing. He really enjoys it. But he wasted a lot of years of his life to get there because not every person is right for every career, ultimately. So this is the office I used to have at the last school that I was at. It was in Boca Raton, Florida, and I was the dean of the business school. And I used to have a lot of conversations. There's a couch there. And that small picture, it's hard to see, but there's a couch there. And I used to have a lot of conversations with parents and students, generally November-ish and April-ish, when students weren't doing terribly well. And one of the things that would often happen when I'd be having that conversation, I'd be asking mom or dad, okay, who wants to major in finance here? Who wants to major in marketing? Is it you want to major in finance or marketing? Does your son or daughter want to major in finance or marketing? And ultimately, it's about the fit of your career and what you like to do. Oftentimes, when we'd be sitting on that couch, we'd find out that the son or daughter, they really wanted to major in biology or photography or something else entirely. But instead, they found themselves being jammed into a career because that's where their parents thought they would go to. And that's not necessarily what our job is as parents, unfortunately. Our job is to help our children knock down the trees that we need to, guide them in the direction, but ultimately, at the end of the day, it's up to them. So the third point about finding your passion is take a test drive. And I know that picture kind of looks like I'm talking about Ford here, but it really is about taking a test drive. Because when you think about it, when we buy a car, we do a test drive. When we buy a house, we go to open houses, don't we? We look at a bunch of open houses. So I'd suggest when you're thinking about finding your passion, let's do the same thing here. If you can do it while you're in high school, that's great. If not, once you get to college, take a class or two early in your career in college that gives you a chance to see whether or not you like biology. Did I really like biology? No, I found out, fortunately, as a freshman. It's better to find that as a freshman as opposed to a senior, so take those classes early. Talk to people who do that for a living. Ask if you could shadow someone. People love to tell you about their careers, especially if they really like what they're doing. They love to talk to you about it. See if you can talk to other people about that. Volunteer, internship. Work is also good. Go out there and work in a job and see again whether it's something that you in that field where you see yourself doing it. So when I was at Syracuse University, I had a friend of the family came to see me one day. And he came to see me, set up an appointment, came to see me. And he said, Mr. Kruczek, I hate my job. And I felt really sad because he was a graduate of Syracuse University and he really just hated his job. I said, well, why do you hate your job? He said, well, I'm in marine biology and I'm behind a desk almost all the day. Sometimes I get into a lab, but I don't get a chance to do what I want. And I said, well, when you were in school, did you do an internship in marine biology? And he said, no. I said, did you shadow anybody in marine biology? He said, nope. I said, for God's sake, did you talk to anybody who was in marine biology? And he said, the answer was no. So what we ended up doing is we ended up getting him on a different track. We got him into graduate school, and he graduated from graduate school. He's doing well. But my point is, take a test drive. What he did wrong was he didn't try and take a test drive. He had no idea really what the world of marine biology really was like. He was doing it based on what he thought it was going to be like. And so I'd urge you to take that test drive. Because college is about discovery, right? It's about new knowledge, new skills, friends, interests. Somebody asked me when we were in the hall over there, they said, is it okay to come to college if you're undecided with your major? And I said, yeah, absolutely. Because that's part of what you're going to do in college, is you're going to try and discover where that passion lies. And be open to new opportunities. Because that's, again, one of the things that we do in college, is we give students an opportunity to try different kinds of things. At our campus, for example, last year, in one of the plays that we did The Great Gatsby. The second lead in the play was a gentleman who had never been in a play before. He was a kicker on our football team, but he decided that was something he wanted to try. And he did. And he found out, yeah, I liked it. Was he going to do another play? He might do another play this year, but he was open to that opportunity, and it gave him an opportunity to see what he could do. And that's what college is about. It's giving you those kind of opportunities. But again, if you don't know what you want to do at this point in your life, don't worry, you're not alone, because there's a lot of kids who are just like you. But ultimately, it's about fit. Whatever college you end up going to, it's about the fit of whether or not you see yourself there. Again, I mentioned I've got 5 children, and I remember one of the girls, I took her on a tour of a college campus up in the east, and it was a gorgeous campus. I really liked it. And it was about an hour-and-a-half tour. By the time the tour was over with, I wanted to get the hat, I wanted to get the sweatshirt, I wanted to do everything. I had the checkbook out. I'm ready to go. This is where she's going to go to college. We get in the car, and she goes, well, that place sucked. And I'm going, what? It was great. You're going to love it. And she said, Dad, you want to go to school here, don't you? This isn't necessarily where I want to go. So Dad went back in the car and he understood that. But it is ultimately about fit. And it's about fit. When you're going to visit colleges, remember, we're looking at you, but you're looking at us just as much. You're looking at us to see whether or not you can see yourself fitting into that school. My daughter, she could not see herself fitting into that particular school. And that's important. You need to be able to look at that. There was a great survey that was out a couple of years ago. It came out in 2014, and it's called the Gallup Study. Great jobs, great lives. And it talks about what makes someone happy when they leave college. They interviewed 30,000 people across the country to find out what made them happy. And ultimately, what made them happy in their lives had nothing to do with the brand of the school. It had nothing to do whether it was an elite school or not elite school. It was what happened in the college. What happened there is what made them decide that they were happy or not happy. And it was things about having an experience with a professor that lasts more than one semester. It's about being able to do experiential opportunities, chances to get your hands dirty, opportunities to work on a project with someone for more than a semester, getting to know a professor or a faculty member who treated them as a person as opposed to just another person at their school. So those are the things that go into the fit of your school. And if you leave nothing else with this tonight, remember, think about fit when you're out there visiting those colleges and universities. So let me conclude. I've got a few minutes here, but let me conclude with two stories, okay? I grew up in the Disney organization, so stories are kind of part of my DNA. So let me tell you first about Ryan and about his path to finding his passion. So I got to know Ryan when he was at Syracuse University, and he was a history major, wasn't really sure what he wanted to do, but one of the things that he did was when he was going to parties, and yes, parents, they are going to go to parties occasionally, he found out that there wasn't necessarily the kind of furniture there that made the room, kind of work for parties. So what he ended up designing was this kind of a piece of furniture there. And we worked with him. He did some marketing of it. He sold it while he was on campus, and he launched a company, which was kind of pretty neat there. He knew that ultimately that was not going to be where he wanted to go. He didn't necessarily want to continue into the world of entrepreneurship, but he really enjoyed that over the course of his 4 years. And so we spent a lot of time thinking about that, and I spent a lot of time talking to him and saying, okay, what do you like here? What do you like about the idea of launching this company? And it turned out what he liked was he liked solving problems, he liked talking to people, he liked communications, and he liked just the whole idea of being able to come up with something that solved somebody's problem. So as we continue to talk, he's now working for an executive search firm, because that was all the things that he enjoyed doing led him to that pathway. When we think about students and their paths oftentimes to passion, it's not a linear path. It's like this. And I'm sure many of us who are in this room who've had career paths who have been like this. And that's exactly what happens with students as well toward finding their passion. Let me tell you another story about Jamie. Jamie was an ice hockey player. That was her passion. She wanted to be an ice hockey player. She was a great ice hockey player. She played it in college, but she found out that while she was in college, there's not really much of a pathway to making money when you graduate from college. So she ended up actually stumbling and dropping out of college for a little while. She worked for a couple of retail companies. She did things that she didn't realize, but it was things like project management, it was marketing, it was finance, it was operations. And so when she came back to college after working for a number of years, she was actually a much, much better student. And as a result of that, she came back to school, and her passion ended up leading her to an internship with a startup company that focused on athletes. She did a couple of internships there. After she finished the last internship, they offered her a full-time job, and that's where she's working right now. Her passion started with athletics. It eventually led her back to a job, but it wasn't direct. I teach a class every fall, Emotionally Intelligent Leadership at Notre Dame, and I bring in a lot of guest speakers. And I got to tell you, almost every guest speaker that I brought in last year and the ones that I brought in so far this year, they all tell basically the same story. They got to passion over a period of time. Again, it wasn't a linear route. It was something like this. And when we think about Jamie and we think about Ryan, they did the same thing. They found their passion over a period of time. Ryan found it through solving problems. Jamie found it by work and internships. So that's kind of what we're talking about when we talk about passion. But there's one more piece that I want you to do, because it obviously takes time to find it, but there's one more piece of advice that's going to guarantee your success, and that no matter what your passion turns out to be, do your best and work your hardest. And then everyone else, it will get you noticed. And working hard leads to a habit of knowing what it takes to succeed, and it'll lead you to a passion for excellence. Because for all of us, that's ultimately what we want to do. We want to have that passion. For our kids, we want our kids to be happy. We want them to love what they're doing, and it just takes time to be able to get there. So again, in summary, to find your passion, you have to learn about yourself. You have to find your strengths and weaknesses. You take a test drive, and you do your best at whatever you do. So that's basically what I wanted to talk about today. This is my contact information here. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to take it. I think Beth, we still got a few minutes, right? So if there's anything that you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer. You get back home and you have any questions, don't hesitate. That's the contact information there as well.